Good day. My name is Craig Robinson. I'm the Research Vice President for our Security Services area of study here at IDC. I'm pleased to have with me today Sam Kumarsamy, who's the Director of Product Marketing at OpenText Security Solutions. The topic today is an important topic. We're going to be talking about email encryption.
Thank you, Craig. Before we get started, since the pandemic, the remote workforce has really increased. And this has led to an increase in the attack surface, right? And everybody uses email as the common form of communication. But it is so important that we know, or at least organizations know, that their employees, if they are sending out sensitive information, that it is protected, as well as only authorized people are sending out sensitive information. So what are you seeing in terms of breaches and data loss prevention recently? What has IDC seen?
Right. Well, if data weren't important, then people wouldn't be trying to go after it or destroy it, but obviously it is. So this whole idea of protecting data with a large chunk of it being kept in email is obviously very important. When we look at the cost of breaches, where the bad guys get into organizations through the various means that they're able to do it, the average cost that IDC has seen in studies is close to $50,000. It's something like $49,000 per breach. And that just kind of covers some of the costs, not counting ransomware, but we're just talking about the cost for incident response. We're talking about the cost for paying fines. We're talking about the cost to pay for someone to go do credit monitoring for that sensitive, personal information that's kept. So obviously it's important for organizations to work on getting protections around the content that's kept in email. Data loss prevention is one of those, buzzword terms that you see talked about. But it's important when you look at where we're at today. Sam, we're in this hybrid world area now where some work's being done behind the traditional four walls of an office. Some of it's being done at home, like, you and I are at today. And it's being done on different devices. It's being done on mobile phones. It's being done on tablets. It's being done on personal PCs and work PCs. Regardless of where that data is being kept, we need to protect it, right? There's things that we need to do. And we've done some research here, at IDC in terms of talking about what are the top privacy needs of organizations, and data loss prevention is towards the top. Things like obfuscating. That's a nice multi-syllable word, right? Everyone say that at home, obfuscating. But obfuscating, there's hiding that sort of sensitive information. So when your roommate or someone else walks behind you, they're not seeing that. So those sorts of things rise to the top. But the whole idea of just encryption and making sure that data is encrypted, whether it's sitting on your laptop or it's in transit, is really important as part of an overall privacy and security framework.
Very interesting. Thanks for that insight there. And I couldn't agree with you more, because from a market challenge, as you know, as I mentioned as well, and you have validated it, cyber threats are increasing, right? It's just the attack surface has increased. And there's increased data leakage via email, as you correctly pointed out, and that's becoming a top priority. So how do organizations have visibility into, from a compliance perspective, right? Because it's extremely critical that sensitive data don't leave the organization. And if it does, it is encrypted, because you don't want the man in the middle kind of attacks, right? And stealing of this sensitive information and being in violation of all the regulatory compliance requirements.
And a lot of the DLP solutions, that we end up looking at, they get complicated, Sam. And, and the problem is, if things get too complicated, what happens? People start utilizing different things to get around, to simplify the world, because, we talk about data being a precious resource. So is time. So if I can get my job done in a shorter time by utilizing, third-party solutions, I do that. So I imagine you've probably got some ideas around that as well.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. Security should be an enabler and not a roadblock, right? And so that is extremely critical, because to your point, people go around it. And that gets me to the next, why email encryption is required. And especially, as I pointed out, email is the most common form of communication. And then sensitive data gets sent out. And it's not only important to encrypt that sensitive data, but also make sure it's the authorized people who are sending out the sensitive data. And that's where the data loss prevention or data leak prevention comes into play, because it's extremely critical to have that kind of visibility. Why? Regulatory requirements require that, because otherwise you'll get hit with big fines, right? Protection of personal health information. But I just want to draw everyone's attention to the fact that MSPs and SMBs are still constrained by resources, because security people are hard to find. So the solution needs to be simple, right? So you cannot have it so complex that it requires a lot of people to do it. And especially if you're in the regulatory compliance industry, such as finance, healthcare, and local government, to your point, you have these regulations coming up all the time. And to your point again, we did our own research last year of SMBs in both North America and EMEA. And we found out that email encryption and data loss prevention, to your point, is the most complex. So there is an absolute need that the solution needs to be simple, easy to use, easy to customize, and user-friendly as well.
Yeah.
And this, go ahead.
It reminds me of the good old days, because an SMB doesn't have those specialists that can just zero in on this stuff. The stuff that the SMB space needs, it needs to be simple. It just needs to work. They don't have the resources to apply these specialized solutions. They need it to be as seamless as possible.
Exactly. And that's why our advanced email encryption is really purpose-built for MSPs to protect their SMBs. Okay. And I want to draw everyone's attention to the 5 key points, what differentiates us from the other vendors. So by default, we offer customizable email DLP filters, and it's included at no additional cost. So I mentioned about, it's not just important to encrypt sensitive data when you determine the sensitive data on the header, on the content, as well as in the attachment. It's also important to make sure it's the authorized person who is allowed to send that sensitive data. The other thing is on-demand and automatic encryption for sender and recipient. So if both are customers, both sender and recipient, you can actually make it very seamless. To your point again, it has to be as seamless as possible. So that's one of the options. We also offer multiple security delivery options to fit the SMB specific needs.
That's going to be really nice for the SMB space, because in my practitioner days, back before I was pontificating on this sort of stuff, I was in charge of making sure that email was secure when it went across. And I was in a particular industry where this whole concept of personal health information was really important. Absolutely. So what we were doing for a while, and boy, it was not fun, was we were just trying to make sure that all of the different partners that we were exchanging information with were up to what we call TLS 1.2, which was back then the minimal standard. Really, you could make sure that you had a secure way of communicating. And we would have to check and make sure that with everyone that we did business with, that they were at TLS 1.2. And it was a very manual, time-consuming process. So it sounds like you're able to get around that with this, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, and it's a great point you make. And that's one of the options we offer. It's not the best option, but it's one of the options, because there are some customers and that specifically request TLS-based policy-defined encryption if required, and I'll talk more about it soon. The other thing is, sometimes you have customers of our advanced email encryption who wants to do business with us, say business partners who exist outside the organization, and they're not a customer of our email threat protection, email encryption. So that for them, we enable secure compose portal where they can initiate that. Last but not the least, as you know, Craig, reporting, right? For compliance, for delivery methods, for DLP quarantine. All this, we provide great reporting so that you can keep track of who has done what for forensic investigations and other purposes as well. So as they like to say, the sum is better than the part. So all 5 of these features combined together really differentiates our product, and our flagship product is really the advanced email encryption. You can see the 3 options of delivery. Everything goes through our gateway encryption. And option 1 is when both the sender and the recipient are customers of email encryption, right? And it's very simple, seamless, to use your exact term there, Craig. It's seamlessly done because the message level encryption is the S-MIME, and it's bidirectional security, secure delivery of messages. So it's very seamless. All the recipient sees at the end when he receives the encrypted or decrypted email is a blue bar that says, hey, your message was encrypted. So that option 1, when both are customers, is very seamless. Option 2 is where you talked about TLS.
That's my option. That's my pain point.
That's your original option, if I may say that, right? So when you used it, was a little clunky. And the point about TLS is the encryption happens at the tunnel, but not the content. So it's not really the preferred method. So we leave it up to the recipient. If they so choose, we can provide that option as well. TLS, by the way, for the people who are wondering, is transport layer security. So, so that's an option. But if the recipient is not able to look at TLS, it quickly switches over the option 3 here, which goes through the Webroot directory. And using the secure messaging portal, the recipient can initiate encryption. And all they do is register one time on the secure messaging portal, and they're able to then have bidirectional flow of information. It's very secure, and it's delivered to any device, anytime, anywhere as well. So these are the 3 different options that we offer, Craig. So it is something we have evolved ever since it was only TLS. So I think it's very compelling.
Yeah, it is, but it's compelling, but it only handles one thing. It handles that encryption piece, and it looks like it handles that well. But you know, one of the things that we're getting hit with and doing a lot more research around is this whole idea of cyber insurance and how important that is. I imagine this fits in well with cyber insurance to allow organizations to even have the chance to get cyber insurance, because as you and I probably know, Sam, you know, a lot of organizations that apply for cyber insurance can't even get it because they don't have that maturity of options. So I imagine this helps. But how does this fit into a bigger framework or a bigger area of protection that would allow organizations to not only be more secure, but also to be able to fulfill that need for cyber insurance, that they can sleep at night knowing that if they get hit by an attack, that they've got the coverage that they need to protect themselves?
Absolutely. And that brings us to our cyber resilience framework here. Our parent company, OpenText, security solutions, of which OpenText Security Solutions is part of the parent. We offer a cyber resilience solution. Just want to define what cyber resilience is so that we have everybody on the same page. It's the ability to continue business operations even when you're under a cyber attack. So that is extremely critical given all the breaches that Craig just talked about. So let me start on the left-hand side by prevent and protect, which is where the email encryption is a big part of it, but there are other products that we offer. Again, the idea is to offer multiple layers of security to prevent the bad guys from breaching your organization. We can try, right? So it's no vendor can promise 100% foolproof because the bad guys somehow find a way in. But endpoint protection is extremely important. That's the next gen AV that we provide on a cloud-based, real-time, and so on. Security awareness training. Everybody is aware of security awareness training, preventing people and organization employees from clicking phishing emails. Email threat protection, preventing multiple attacks or email-borne threats such as business email compromise, phishing, ransomware, so on. We provide that. Email continuity, where up to 30 days, even if the infrastructure is down, you can send and receive emails. Email encryption, we just talked about. Email message privacy, ability to send large files up to 100 gigabytes. So you can see we offer all these multiple layers, and then there is the detect and respond aspect of it as well, where it's really critical to do threat hunting, because once the bad guy gets in and they are dormant, within the organization, you have to make sure that any abnormal behavior is monitored, and that's where the MDR comes into play. And in spite of all of this, Craig, you still get hit with ransomware attacks, and that's where the Carbonite restore and recovery comes into play. So we use this threat intelligence to keep our products relevant. And on top of it, we are developing a secure cloud console, a unified console for all these products to onboard SMBs, especially this will help MSPs to onboard SMBs, to add products, to delete products as they see fit, as we develop new products and so on. So a unified console is what we call a secure cloud. By offering this layered security and layered data management, we believe we are offering our MSPs an end-to-end solution to not only help obtain cyber insurance, but also to lower the premiums.
So there's savings to be had if you got the right maturity behind you, in terms of the protections that you have. Having a complete cyber resilient solution is obviously going to help to keep your rate premium increases down. So kudos, that's been good. Well, Sam, I appreciate your time today. Thank you for showing me more about what OpenText has in terms of a complete solution, as well as the email threat encryption. It's been great to talk to you, my friend.
Yeah, and then to just wrap it up, if you want to know more about our email encryption solution, you can click on the URL below. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.